Hello, I'm Davian Fuchsia and I'll be doing a Let's Play of Dwarf Fortress Adventure Mode. So, I'm sure Dwarf Fortress people know what it is, but Adventure Mode is a little bit different. So, basically in Adventure Mode, you're an adventurer that goes around doing quests and stuff like that, or you can be a villain, or you can be whatever you want. So, let's go into creating a new world and get this started underway. So when creating a new world, I like to make smaller, medium worlds. I find that small, it's really compact and it's nice to get around. But medium, you have more mega beasts and stuff to kill, so they're both good. History, short and medium. I like short for small, medium for medium. Civilizations, I sometimes like to get to very high, but the chances of it placing all the civilizations can be difficult. I'll do it a few times. Just to show you. Number of sites, I like that very high, medium as well. That very high, and it's frequent. Now, mineral occurrence, I've heard tales that people say that the more minerals that are in the game, the more access that I'm not sure if this is true or not, but even if it isn't true, it makes starting a fortress easier. And if you can start a fortress easier, like to maybe build stuff for your adventure, then that's great. As you can probably see here, possibly sail again. Yeah. Problem with medium worlds and very high civilizations is that it tries to place 160 civilizations, and this doesn't seem to work too well. You could probably adjust it, but I'm not that efficient with coding and all that. I'll let that run a couple more times before. Basically what I'll do is I'll just set the civilizations down to high, and then I'll do it run again. Let one go one more time. Probably gonna fail again. And yeah, it failed. So what I usually do is to avoid that, I just go to the very high instead of very high, and that'll reduce the number of civilizations to 80. 80 usually plays with no problems at all, so this should be relatively quick and the game will be underway. Now, I will note a couple things though. When creating world, the civilizations and where they're placed and all that. Basically, I like to have dwarves and goblins and elves and humans all compact and ready to be next to each other, just so the game, will have goblins to ambushes to you can fight, or elves that you can play, or dwarves you can play, depending on how close they are to humans. Since you can only play as in human settlements, the goblin, dwarven, and every other civilization's settlements are all disabled, so you sort of have to. Now it looks like we have a little bit of humans here and there. Up here it doesn't look like just much, but this doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's it's Counter Conquer, but that's Dark Goblin. That's a Dark Goblin fortress, so there's goblins around these humans. And there's dwarves up here. You could play dwarf. Down here, looks like there's humans, elves, and goblins and dwarves all together. So that's great. And down here, goblins, elves. Yeah, dwarves are kind of close, but not that close. Actually, close to these guys who have elves and dwarves. A good mix of everything then. So this won't be a bad world to embark on for adventure mode. Nice mix of whatever you want depending on where you go. Assuming that the goblins or elves don't get conquered by the humans or dwarves. So what I plan to do is I plan to let this run for the 250 or so years that it has to, and then I'll start the recording again. Alright, so we are back. And so the world developed itself 250 years into it. A couple of the goblins got conquered, a couple of elves, but for the most part, it's going to be a pretty good adventure map. Down here, at least, there's still some goblins running around, some elves to play, some dwarves and humans, and other places as well too. Like over here, there's dwarves, elves, and goblins, and dwarves, elves, and goblins. So there's lots of places to play. So I'm just gonna accept this. All right. Yes. So, as I stated before, I'll be playing as a human demigod for my adventure, just because it's I'm likely still going to die, but at least I'll have a better chance of living as a demigod than a hero or a peasant. I have played heroes and peasants successfully, but more or less of the time you just die. Just too much grinding for, say, a peasant to go from novice to like great on a stupid weapon or shield or anything like that, depending on what you give up. So this will be done in a moment. And we can begin. And alright. So we'll start playing Adventurer. Alright. So we'll be playing as demigod and we'll be playing as human. Remember there's humans around this area as well as human down and below. Let's try Aneth Garrel. I usually like to up my strength to superior, my agility to superior, and I like to dump a few things like empathy, musicality, inquisitability, patience, and creativity, since they don't really have any purpose yet in the adventure mode. Now it gives me extra attributes points that I can throw elsewhere. Endurance, put high, willpower, spatial sense, kinetic sense. That's good focus. You could, if you use my build, you could like get social awareness or recuperation, wherever you really want. But for me, I like to have some good defensive and strength, and then I like to get reader up to novice, so I can, in case I find a necromancer's tower, I can become a necromancer. A novice swimmer, competent observer, and I like to get my dodger, my armor user, and shield user up to fairly powerful. And then I usually like to pick up a weapon skill at the rest of the points. Swordsman is usually the best to go with. I find that swordsmen are quite versatile. with their swords because they can both slash and pierce, and it's good. Let's change that name. Yeah, Joydented sounds fine. Okay, so we're gonna start. As you probably know about the attributes that I'm not really sure exactly what everything does, but for the most part, I do know that superior strength ups your damage and it increases your speed and stuff like that. Not as much as agility though, but with both I'm as fast as I can be, and that's important. Toughness and endurance. Toughness is a defensive attribute, and endurance to some extent is as well. In that high endurance, you don't get as tired as often, which can be important for wrestling, but it's also important if like you're charging constantly, like against kobolds or having to slash stuff. Was once an elf, and I slashed with my wooden sword so many times that I actually fell down from exhaustion. And then the other stuff, willpower, focus, and whatever, they can be helpful. I find that pain you can't really resist, and I'm not sure if spatial sensor can really help as much, but again, my noise, just because it seems like a waste is to pour all your points into getting a few attributes. Okay, so I start here. In the map, there's some elves down here, there's goblins, or the necromancer tower, dwarves and humans and everything else, so I'm in a nice starting little area here. Yeah, let's see if there's anyone around. Maybe I can pick up a couple soldiers to help fight with. It should be noted that I'm using the Phobias tile set to play this. Mostly because since Iron Hand is currently on hiatus, I still want to usually use, but I find that Golden Shadow, who's maintaining the Iron Hand package, the railroad tracks really do interrupt, the feel for the game, and it's just better to use a different tile set than to suffer through it. I don't see any soldiers around, but oh well, that's fine. I can pick up a quest. Now, this might be cheap, but I do it anyways. You can find like your food in these villages, and it's free to pick up. Let's get that ratweed because it's just easier, less complicated. You can also loot these cabinets for stuff as well. It's like free as well for whatever reason, and it can be useful for equipping your guy. I'm just gonna get all this, and I think I'll call that it for the video, and we'll start off on our quest next time. So yeah, I'll see you next time.